Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first kickoff bfoUP webinar of the season. I'm Beth. I'm the communications coordinator with Farmers of Ontario, and for some reason, it is not letting me put up my webcam. So you can hear me now, you just can't see me. I don't know why it's doing that. Maybe there's something going on there, but oh well. As long as you can see me, that's all that matters. And you can see my screen. So I'm just going to give a little brief go on what we'll be talking about tonight. So our speaker tonight is Pelleboer. She will be talking about our beef breeder co-ops programs that we have here in Ontario. And she'll be giving her a little feedback on her and what the opportunities are with that. So just before we get started, just to give a little bit of background about what Beef Farmers of Ontario do. We are the advocate and unified voice for the province's beef farmers in Ontario. So we advocate on behalf of farmers in government, law, planning, communications, the environment, food safety, obviously are big things. We keep track of the market pricing, and sending out the magazine, all sorts of those other things. And you can see obviously more in depth on our website exactly what we do. So if you're interested in any of that, feel free to check out our website. Yeah. So obviously there's a lot of talk and everything about getting more young farmers involved and more interested in the industry. As we all know that the average age for farmers is 55, so we need to get more people out there more interested. So there's a lot of different ways that young farmers. So obviously the big one is to join in with your local association. If you're interested on who the best person to contact for that is, or even what your local association is, we have a list of that on our website. And there's the contact email and phone number for your local secretary and president for your local association and where your nearest one might be. There's also a lot of local, provincial, national workshops or just general ones like this that you can take part in and get to know people and network and really get involved. Definitely lots of good volunteer opportunities to take part in, whether it's at your local county fairs. We're always looking for people to help out at the Royal Winter Fair or the CNE. Those are good places to help out and definitely advocate for the beef industry in Ontario and Canada. And we always have the Beef Youth Development Program in the summer, so that's a good way to come out and network with young people and go out to different farms that we have in Ontario, see what those farmers are doing, and then make your own assessment of those farms and think about what you might do with them if you run those farms in particular, and things that you may take home to your own farm. So where can you learn more about these programs and other opportunities? Obviously, like I've been talking about, there's lots of stuff you can find on our website, theontariobeef.com. Lots of different programs and things you can go on there and find out more about. Sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, which you can sign up for on the website, the bulletin board. If you are a member or have family members that are paying checkoff, they receive the magazine 5 times a year. Even if you are not a member but would still like to receive the magazine, you can call the office and subscribe to that, and we'll be happy to put you down for that to make sure you're getting the magazine. And of course, social media, that's obviously a big one. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and we are on YouTube as well, so you can find us there. You can also learn more from actual talking to people, which I know is surprising in this day and age, but you can talk to our producer relations guy, Dan Ferguson, who many of you might already know. I've just put his email down on there, but he's also easy to get a hold of on his phone as well, which you can find that number on our website, or you can contact me. My email's there, and you can also get me. I'm in the office on most days, so you can just call into the office there, and we'd be happy to talk with you more about the different programs we have going on, or even if you just have questions about on-farm questions, you can definitely talk to Dan about those. He's a great guy to talk to about those things. So lastly, just a thing that's coming up, just came up this past week that we're really excited about. At our AGM this year, Farm Credit Canada has agreed to partner with us and sponsor covering the registration and accommodation cost of young producers attending our AGM. So producers between the ages of 19 to 40, if they apply, Farm Credit Canada is going to cover those costs. So we're going to have a few more details and the application forms posted on our website in the next coming weeks, but that's definitely a good opportunity to come out and take part and learn more about kind of what BFO is doing and the decision making that goes on, as well as networking with other producers who have been doing this for a long time, and other new ones as well, other young ones, because for the past couple of years we've had a lot more young people coming out to our AGM. So it'd be a good opportunity if you're interested to keep an eye out, and I'll definitely be posting more information as it comes available for what we're doing with that. And last but not least, our second webinar will be coming up in December, and we'll be featuring Mike Swiderski from Grey Dufferin Community Pastures, and he's going to be talking about how you can take advantage of the community pastures and the opportunities they can provide for young producers. So similar tonight, focusing on programs that you can hopefully take advantage of and potentially use for your own farms and expanding on your own operations. So with that, I'm going to wrap up my own little presentation here and move it over to Sally so she can get started. So Sally, I'm going to move it over to you and unmute you so that you can talk as well. So Sally, you should be good to go. I've got you as, yep, there, you're good. I can see your screen here and I can hear you, so you should be all right.
Okay, awesome. Okay, well, thank you, Beth, for that introduction. There we go. Okay, I am going to start by expanding on that and talk about my background first. So I guess you can't see me. Is that correct, Beth?
For some reason, it's not letting us do the videos tonight, so I'm not sure why. So we don't get to see your lovely face tonight, Sally. But we'll get to see your PowerPoints. But I'm sure there'll be some nice pictures in there too.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, that works. Okay, so all right, I'm just going to start with my background. So I grew up in Lambton County on a feedlot and cash crop farm. I have two sisters, and we all grew up very involved in the farm, working with our father and grandfather, which, you know, I definitely believe led to my passion for agriculture and the beef industry. We did 4-H, we showed steers. After high school, I went to Ridgetown College. I graduated in 2001 with my diploma in agriculture. I went home after school to full-time farm with Dad, and I started my beef herd in 2003 with 10 heifers that I picked out of Dad's feedlot. That was my first beef breeder co-op loan. So when I was at Ridgetown, I met my husband, Garrett Pelleboer, and we got married in 2005, and we now have 3 children. And we own and operate a dairy farm in Oxford County now. So we milk 400 cows and farm about 1,000 acres. When I moved to Oxford County, I brought my cow herd along with me. At that time, excuse me, at the time I had 45 cows. So they were mostly black cows. As you can see, some of those cows in that picture are from back then. Those were pretty old cows in that picture at that point. In 2007, I acquired a DuPont Pioneer sales agency. So over the years, things got a lot busier for me. I made many adjustments to my beef business and seed business to make it manageable for me. And with having children and taking over the farm and everything that goes along with that, I needed to do that. So currently I have 26 cows, which is much more manageable for me. And I am a sales associate for Till Valley Farms now. So I'm still selling Pioneer products, but at a much lower capacity. When I came to Oxford County back in 2005, I was eager to connect with other beef producers in the area. So my dad was always involved with the Lambton Cattlemen's Association. So following his example, I reached out to the Oxford County Cattlemen's Association. This was a really good move for me, being able to network and connect with local beef producers. It was very comforting and motivating, and brought me a lot of value over the years with my own herd management and industry insight. So I became a director, and then I took on the role as secretary for the Oxford County Cattlemen's a few years ago too. And I'm also a director on the Southwest Beef Breeder Co-op, and I have been since the start of that co-op in 2003, I guess it would be. So I think I might have had a couple years off when I was having children there, but I for the most part, I've been on that board for 15 years. So when BFO approached me about doing this webinar, I was excited and honored to talk about something that I am very passionate about. And when I was sitting here thinking about my background and my story, I can remember that first meeting, that first planning meeting for the Southwest Beef Breeder Co-op 15 years ago. I was attending that meeting with my dad, who was very involved with the Lambton feeder finance at the time. And a few of those producers were forming the Southwest Beef Breeder Co-op in Lambton County. So I remember I was nominated that night to be on the board, and I've stayed on ever since. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty certain that my loan was the first one on the books for the breeder co-op back in 03 for those 10 heifers, because I remember sitting down with the supervisor doing that loan at the kitchen table, and he was learning just as much as I was when we did that first loan. So, as I said before, today I have 26 Simmental Red Angus cows, commercial cows, that I purchased as bred heifers from Manitoba in 2015 with a breeder co-op loan. So with that, let's move on to the facts about the breeder co-ops. So what are co-ops and how do they work? So the Ontario Beef Breeder Cooperative Program is made up of 8 co-ops across the province to provide members with loans for starting, growing, or improving their beef cow herd. I wanted to show this, I wanted to show BFO's website here for everybody that's looking for information for the co-ops. If you go on to BFO's website under programs, Beef Breeder Cooperative Program is there, and you can pull up this chart here that gives you every co-op in the province, the area that it covers, the administrator, and the contact information for that area, that co-op, sorry. So you can see our co-op is down there. Each co-op operates under the same structure with similar policies. There is a board of directors who are all beef producers who bring a unique local and regional perspective that is reflected in each co-op's rules and regulations. So for this webinar, I am representing Southwest Beef Breeder Co-op, which, so depending on what co-op you're interested in working with or are gonna look into, things could look a little different. So I wanted to show this slide, breeder co-op statistics for 2018. So from 2006 to now, I thought it was interesting to see the number of active members gone from 203 up to 359, and the cow inventory has almost doubled. Average loan per member went from 20,000 up to 37. So how they work. I thought I would go through the steps of the application process for the co-ops. The first step is that an interested producer applies to the co-op for a membership. So I wanted to show our membership form. Here you can see the application for membership. Couple points I wanted to point out with this is to be eligible, you need to be 18 years old. You need to be landowner or rent land. And I just want to point out with that to not let that deter you at all if you are a young producer and you don't maybe own land or rent land yet. Definitely still apply if you're interested, and this needs to be something at the discretion of the board, and it's definitely something not to deter you. So that you need to list some references there, and it's $25 for this membership application for the Southwest Beef Breeder Co-op. After approved membership by the board, the member can apply for a purchase order for the amount of credit that they anticipate they're going to need to purchase their cattle. Depending on the co-op, the maximum funding per member ranges from $50,000 to $150,000. Southwest Beef Breeder is $75,000 to $150,000. Something to point out that's important: if a member has not calved out at least 20 cows in the previous year, that they may be limited to a maximum of 25,000. So I wanted to go over the purchase order application with you guys because I think it's kind of neat to show the paperwork. So it starts out with the basics information. You put in your credit requested, number of head to be financed, approximate value per head, and then it's just some basic questions so we can get some insight into you. Do you farm or share facilities with a co-op member? If so, who? Do you know any of the board of directors? What is your objective in utilizing the co-op? Number of cattle currently owned. Do you have sufficient feed on hand for these cattle? And then we asked the person to provide a 3-year livestock plan, including your own cattle and those to be financed with the co-op. So it's a 3-year little livestock plan there that you need to fill out that is like the number of bulls that you're going to have, number of cows and heifers exposed to bull, expected number of opens, expected number of live calves at weaning, expected sale of calves, sale month, value of sale, expected value of cull cows, and the cost of keeping a cow or heifer per year. So this is really, really neat. It's kind of like a little business plan, and it gives the board of directors some really good insight onto if you know what you're doing, if you have a realistic outlook, if you are knowledgeable of the industry, if your experience. I think it's just really, really good little thing. And then I wanted to point out, before the purchase order is issued, a check for 15% is required as a down payment with this purchase order if you get approved for it. So 15% is put into an insurance account, and it is required for the co-op, as it's basically just that. It's insurance for the co-op if something does happen to go wrong. It is returned as the principal is paid down, and it can be applied back to the loan. So, okay. So loan information. Loans are payable over a 5-year term. There's one payment per year consisting of principal payment, interest, and administration fees. Members can choose between a June 1st or December 1st payment. And I want to point out that open heifers of breeding age, there is an option for a 6-year term loan with that, with the first payment being interest only. The CIBC is our current lender, and the interest rate is currently prime plus a half. So the administration fee for Southwest Beef Breeder Co-op is $30 per head per year. Each co-op sets their own, and the administration fee includes the cost of administering the co-op, obviously all the loans, paperwork, etc., and the AGM for the co-op, and also included is peril insurance on the cattle. So once a member has been approved for their purchase order, the breeding females may be purchased. So cattle are tagged. Cattle need to be tagged with co-op tags so they can be identified belonging to the co-op. As you can see in my photo there, those cows of mine have the Southwest Beef Breeder tag in their ear. You can see the little SWBB above the number. And then each co-op has a supervisor. Our supervisor is Cindy Harrington, and she's been doing it a long time, and she's wonderful. And the supervisor is kind of the eyes for the board of directors. The supervisor will do a farm visit and report back to the board. They will make sure that the cattle are tagged and inventory all matches up and the cattle look good. You know, they check things out, like is there feed on hand, they talk with the producer, kind of get to know the producer that way, and just give the board some insight and make sure everything checks out. So then you're all good to go basically, and then the last step is the calves are sold in the name of the co-op and the member's name. Oh, sorry, let me turn that off. And the loan payment is made. Sorry about that, that was the house phone going off. So the pros and cons of the co-op. The first one is the cows are the collateral, which is the big one. It's ideal for a young producer who doesn't have any credit history or equity built up or any access to any other collateral. It's the biggest advantage I see with the co-op. Little paperwork, there's very little paperwork to do. Well, you saw the paperwork, the membership form and the purchase order application, that's it. It's simple and straightforward, and if you've ever worked with any other lender, you would definitely agree with that. The fellow beef producer board is a big one too. This has many advantages. The board, the fellow, you know, they understand your business much more than a traditional lender because they are beef producers, right? And the board looks at the integrity of the producer, their experience, their support around them. They look at a much bigger picture when making a decision to approve the loan or not. The board is also there for support and help, and they can offer much advice on the business side or management side. And a member of a co-op with fellow producers, I kind of thought this was an advantage. Like for me, it's just something that I think is neat, like to be a part of a co-op like this and other people who share the same passion as you, especially as a young producer starting out, it's definitely an advantage. As far as the negatives or the cons, there's not a lot, but the 15% assurance fund down payment I would consider a bit of a con. This assurance account is required, obviously, and in case a producer has a bad year, like we all know things happen. I wish it could be lower, like the feeder finance program being 5%, but we do not have the government guarantee like the feeder side does, so it is at 15%. And the other thing about the assurance fund account is, I need to point out that your money is in one big pot, and it could potentially be used if another member of the co-op has a loss. I mean, that's what a co-op is, right? We're all in this together, and it is something that I think definitely people need to be aware of. And then the limits per head. So CIBC sets these, they review them quarterly, and they're usually right where they should be for commercial cows, but they are still limits. This could be seen as a disadvantage or almost an advantage too, because even though you are restricted to the per head limit, it does keep your cost, realistic of that breeding female, and it can therefore reduce your risk and set you up for potentially more revenue and more success. So on our last report, we had our last limit report CIBC had come out with, they had put cows at $21.60 per head as a maximum, and heifers at $21.60, cow-calf pairs at $25.20, and bred heifers at $17.36, just to give you an idea. So why I chose the co-op? Well, in 2003, starting out, like I explained in my background, with no credit history, no equity, the cows being the collateral it just made so much sense to me, and it was easy to acquire the loan based on that. I was motivated to join the co-op because I knew a few of those fellow beef producers, and I was keen to network with them and learn from them and work with them. And it gave me a boost of confidence as well when I started out, because working with those producers and them having faith in me really helped me start my business, right? Like them having confidence in me, taking on risk for the first time is definitely a something that one of the reasons why I chose to work with the co-op. And little paperwork, simple process, straightforward. The payments are all laid out. There's no surprises. I knew exactly what to expect over those 5 years. It just such a simple process. So since that first loan, I guess I've had 4 loans, and at least 4, and which they've allowed me to expand with ease. Paid off some loans, get another one, staggering the loans to free up some cash flow and to make things more comfortable and more manageable. Recommendations for young producers from me. First one I thought of was to attend an annual meeting. I think that's a great place to start. Reach out to other borrowing members, like an annual meeting of these co-ops. Reach out to other borrowing members, ask them questions, go find out their experiences. Industry partners, this is something we've all heard before, but it's so important to the success of your business. Forming strong relationships with good industry people like your vet, your nutritionist, but also your neighbor, other farmers. This is where you may find connections that can give you that edge. Or, I know for myself, this has been absolutely key. You need to have good, strong relationships with your accountant, your lawyer, your lender. Like, these all need to be a part of your short-term, long-term goals. They need to be familiar with your business, and you need to be comfortable and confident with them. Buy youthful, healthy cows. It's very important. Have a marketing plan. Figure out how and where you want to market your calves. It starts with the cow, right? So with feed, health protocols, it starts right at the beginning with the cow, but that's very important to your success. Communicate with whoever may put those cows on feed if you're able to do that. Find out what genetics work for them, what health protocols they want, and use those genetics, meet those health protocols. Like, I know that's not always something that everybody can do. If you're going to just put your calves into a sale, you obviously don't know who's going to buy those calves, but that was something for me that worked. For over 10 years, I sold my calves directly to a producer, and it was great because we formed a strong alliance, and my calves, they went from my farm to his farm, and every year we sat down and we would take the BFO market reports and we would work out a price, and we communicated a lot about what worked for him, what worked for me, and I would implement those things that worked for him, and so then I could ask for a premium for my calves, because I knew that he was getting what he wanted, and it was definitely a premium product. So that's worked really well for me. Don't get too big too quick. Pace yourself, pay down some of your loans, and then buy some more. Don't be afraid to ask the board of directors for help. This is a big one, ask for advice, and then elect good people to run the co-op, because that's very important to lower the risk for all members of the co-op. You have to have good people running it, approving those loans. I did go and get a couple other producers in my area to give a very quick little statement on why they chose Southwest Beef Breeder Co-op and why they're happy with it. So I went and seen these 2 producers, and I'm just going to play these for you quickly. So this is Jamie Visser from Norwich, and Matt Heleniak from Norwich, they're both using the Southwest Beef Breeder Co-op.
Hi, I'm Jamie Visser from Norwich, Ontario. I chose to deal with the Southwest Breeder Co-op to allow me to grow my herd size quicker and to allow me to run more efficient. I found it was hard growing and dealing with the banks and explaining how the whole deal works. The co-op made it easy to do that and let me free up a lot of capital money to expand my herd and move forward with the cow-calf.
Hello, my name is Matthew Liniak with Norwich Packers and Hawkeye Landing Cattle, and we're here today asking me the question why I chose to use the Southwestern Beef Cow Co-op program. And the reason I use it is pretty simple, a couple different things. One was it was a really easy way to access more capital when I was just starting out growing my cattle herd. It was pretty simple just to call up. I didn't have to explain to a bank or a bank manager how I was going to make money with these cattle, what the value of the cattle was going to be, or the cows and the calves and all that kind of stuff. So that stuff was already all laid out for us, so it made it pretty easy, very simple, cut and dry to access the money and also support a co-op at the same time in a farming community that we definitely believe it exists to help young beef farmers, and it's great being a part of that particular program.
So those guys kind of are saying a lot of the same things I said, but just to kind of get their input too, I thought was valuable. So that's basically what I had. I had that overview of how the co-ops work and why I chose them. And now if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them if I can.
All right, that's great, Sally. That's a really good presentation. I'm glad you got those the video of those guys coming in there. That's awesome to get a bit more feedback from some other people who have had some experience with it, and to give kind of what they what their background with it and why they chose to go with it. So we'll wait for a few seconds there for some questions, but I've got some questions here from Dan as well as myself, so I'll kick off with those just to get things going. So one from Dan that he had was, do you think that BFO should pursue an umbrella breeder co-op program that could potentially cover more territory than the 8 breeder co-ops currently address that we have?
Yeah, I mean, that's I would say yes. To me, that seems very like a positive direct move or the right direction to go. The more coverage, the better. The more support from BFO, the better. Maybe we could potentially get the government guarantee. I know that BFO's been working on that for years and lower that down payment. So I mean, the way the program works now is great, and I'm not saying that you should pursue that because the program doesn't work right now, but I think that would be a positive, and I would definitely support that.
Yep. Okay. Good. And then with accepting like co-op members and that sort of thing, you said you have a supervisor. So are members of the co-op approved based on the supervisor, or do the co-op members already established make that decision? How in the end is a new member kind of accepted, I guess?
So it's definitely a combination of both those things. So the supervisor, especially with a new member that doesn't know any other members board of directors on the co-op, if the new member doesn't know anyone or has ever worked with any of those producers, we would send the supervisor out before we even approved anything, because yes, so Cindy would go out and just get to know that producer, have a conversation, look around, you know, and it isn't just our supervisor and board of directors that can help us with that. Like, we definitely will reach out to industry people too, like nutritionists or people that we trust as a board, that see a lot and have all those connections and might give us some insight. So that's part of it. If it's somebody brand new, if it's someone that is applying for loan after loan, like it's a long time member, long time, like multiple loans, like myself, for example, but we have, you know, we do have quite a few of those producers, which is great. So those ones are easier to approve because we have that history with them. But it's a combination of that. The supervisor, like I said, is the eyes for the board, and you know, we just, that's how we basically, that's the process that we go through to decide whether or not to approve them as a member, and then if they apply for that purchase order.
Okay, well, that's good. I had a question come in here. It said, could you mention the dollar limits per class of cattle that the program can cover again, please? What happens when value of cattle purchased is over that?
Okay, sure. So those limits are, as reported in our CIBC reported in that last quarter, which was as of September 30th, 2018. They had cows put at a max of $2,160 per head. They had heifers put at the same. They had cow-calf pairs put at $2,520 per head, and bred heifers at $1,736 per head. So what happens is you can apply for that much. If the animal's over that amount, you're just going to have to come up with that on your own. The co-op will only be able to finance up to that maximum.
Okay. Another question that just came in is, does the co-op match a producer up with buyers, or what are the options for selling?
Sorry, match them up with buyers, did you say?
Yeah, or what are the options for selling?
I mean, like, definitely. So that could, like, we don't do that as a rule, but we could, that's exactly what I had said about talking to the board and asking the board for advice. So we don't match them up, so to say, like, specifically, but we could offer some connections and offer some advice on where to market your calves and how to do that, and depending on your area. And yeah, that's something that we would definitely be open to helping producers with.
So it's definitely a good opportunity for like the networking to come out and meet with and that sort of thing, make those connections. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest advantages and positives of the co-op. If you're willing to open yourself up to that, then yes, that's going to bring value to your business.
Yeah, no, that's good. And then this is kind of from Dan and I, is what do you think, having obviously been a huge part with the success of Southwest beef breeders and working with it for so long, what are some things that you think that BFO could do to build awareness of the opportunity of beef breeder co-ops, and what could BFO do more to help raise awareness to like the young producers that potentially are listening to us here today?
I mean, the simple, quick answer for that is social media. Like, it's definitely something that has to be. It's, you know, it's free, and it's so effective for young producers, especially. This is a good question because actually Southwest Beef Breeder Co-op has recently just formed a committee for this, and I'm going to be on it. And we want to put a little focus on this area ourselves. And you know, it's like any other volunteer thing. The board, we're all very busy, and we're all, you know, producers ourselves, and you can only do so much. And we might have wonderful ideas and incentives, but whether it actually gets executed or not is always the challenge, right? So
Yeah.
any any support from BFO in that sense would be, I think, a huge advantage for all the co-ops. You know, like with Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all of it. That's just a quick answer. I would have to think a little harder on it more, but that just a little more focused in that way, and I think that would go a long way.
Yeah, yeah, no. And obviously it's not a spring of the moment answer that you can't pull out of your socks at 1 second. So yeah, no, but for sure. Well, I haven't seen any more questions come out here for a minute, so I think we've answered them pretty good. If anybody has any, now would be the time to type them in quick here while I'm talking. But otherwise, thank you very much, Sally, for taking the time out and putting together this presentation for us and talking to us about the co-op programs. I mean, I've learned a lot because I didn't have a full knowledge of them myself, having not really. Obviously, I've never taken part in the co-op program, so I didn't have a full knowledge of them really myself, like just from having talked to you. So it's good to get that in-depth feedback about them and know what they're really about. And I'm sure that our listeners here have gotten that too. And hopefully some of them have got a little bit of feedback that they can take home and maybe think about applying to their own operation and what it might do for them. So thanks for taking that time and for putting this presentation together for us. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. I hope it was helpful, and I hope people got some good information.
Oh, I'm sure they did. That was really good, and thanks again. And sorry that the videos didn't work here, so we couldn't actually talk face to face, but the way it goes.
That's okay. Yeah.
Thanks again.
Okay, thanks, Beth.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.